incident was about to take place that would shake the foundations of the civilized world.
It is time to open your mind. Time to discover your divine self as we navigate this holographic matrix together. Strap in, cosmic family, as we slide through this wormhole of cosmic information together in search of the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
It's time to go inside the matrix. With your host, Jimmy Brent.
All right, welcome everybody to Inside the Matrix. I hope you're surviving in the Matrix right now because things have gotten a little bit cray-cray out there. This week, once again, we're welcoming back our good friend Shane Bales. Shane was just on a few weeks ago, but lots of people have requested to get him back on ASAP, and I couldn't agree more. So Shane, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Are you maintaining okay in your neck of the woods there?
I am. Yeah, not a lot. I live in a very large city. I think today was the first day I saw some empty grocery store shelves, but it wasn't completely chaos either. So everyone here seems to be behaving so far.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting dynamic. On one hand, we've sort of got people kind of halfway panicking by buying, all the toilet paper and all the, different staples. Yeah, I went to the grocery store yesterday, and there were probably 5 aisles with nearly nothing in them, which was surprising. I expected the toilet paper because we've heard all about that and seen all the memes, that are pretty funny and everything like that. But then today I was walking around the park near my house, and kids are out there playing Little League baseball, and families are out there, and so that seemed fairly normal. So we had this kind of really bizarre behavior and somewhat normal behavior all at the same time. Yeah,
seeing a lot of that, and just a lot of people's reaction to it. It's kind of, getting to their fear bone pretty quickly. So, and some people are just laughing it off completely. There doesn't seem to be a lot of middle ground.
Yeah, exactly. I find it very interesting, and I think most people who are aware of these types of things know that this is a totally contrived, rehearsed, and implemented social engineering thing that we're experiencing right now. I always say to people, whenever something like this happens, you watch what they're doing behind the scenes, because it's like, hey, watch the bouncing ball over here. Meanwhile, we're going to do this kind of nonsense over here. And I am certain that there's a lot of that going on, besides the obvious scare tactics, fear-mongering that's going on. And if people would just step back and look at it, far, far more people die of flu and all kinds of other things every year in comparison to this coronavirus. But they've decided to hype it to the point where it is now, and it's enabling them to do all these other social engineering tests, like closing down different businesses, closing the schools down, those types of things.
Yeah, people are starting to have to work from home or just being out of work right now. That's going to do all kinds of damage in a lot of different ways, on top of the, the nonsense we are seeing at the stores. And yeah, thankfully I'm not seeing any type of, I've seen some online, but not in my area anyways, seeing any type of actual violence or anything like that going on about any of it. But it can get there in a hurry. We've all known that this was coming in some form. This is a great opportunity for them to stretch that a bit. That's why I've kind of maintained that this is, I'm not worried about the virus itself so much as I'm worried about the test that they're running with it, which is to see how much control they can really lock down. And they're doing very well so far. Kind of what I warned everybody about was giving into the fear of what was going on, and then and looking to them for the savior, and then listening to them for the answer, and following what they say we were supposed to do, is it can be dangerous. So we'll have to be careful moving forward with this.
Absolutely. That's completely true. And, we have seen this being planned for a long time, these types of things. And of course, they're going to try and roll out all kinds of crazy stuff on us. That's pretty much a given.
I mean, I'm pissed. I wanted the zombies. I didn't want the corona. I wanted the zombies. That's what I wanted. I asked for it 4 times. This virus is horseshit. Excuse my language.
No, I agree, and it's almost laughable. I mean, except you see people seriously reacting to it, the way they are, and they have hyped it to the max. I mean, this is serious social engineering. And I'm hoping that people will eventually see it for what it is and not be susceptible, to riding along with this. Now, I think over time, I don't think they're going to be able to sustain the hysteria on the media unless they pull off some other, heinous false flag stuff to sort of give impetus to their BS here that they're doing, but. If anybody's interested, there's a channel that I follow called Amazing Polly. I'm sure some of you out there will probably have heard her, but she came out with a really good video. I believe it was either last night or this morning, going through a lot of this stuff, and she even has some footage of a meeting from October of last year where they were planning exactly what's going on now and how they have to enlist certain segments of the population to enhance their outreach to people to try and get them to follow the narrative that they want to put out there. These people are literally, talking about how they're going to implement it, and after you hear what they have to say, you can see how they did it. They actually carried through and did exactly what they said, and the meeting was all about a possible pandemic and how they would handle it. Isn't that very interesting? And then, which begs the question, who in the hell gave these people, how in the world have we let these people decide our futures in any way, shape, or form, whether it's politicians or these banksters or, that's what people have got to wake up to. We've got to take control of our own lives and not be bowled over by this.
Well, it's happening at 2 levels, like it always is. I mean, there's the spiritual level of what's going on. Some good friends within the alternative community have been calling it kind of like an eye of a needle. And that's a very good analogy for it. It's almost like things are just being forced through the eye of a needle, and nothing but love is getting through there. All the fear and nonsense that, has been created here is getting stuck on the other side still. So that's a good thing. And the wrap up to that, or the counter to that, is, them in this physical manifestation of it all, pulling shit like this, where, they know that this is a good opportunity for us spiritually, and they know that this is a good opportunity for awakening. And so it's a good opportunity for them to impose as much control as they can in a short amount of time. Another big facet of all of this is just all the technology that's going to end up rolling out on the other side of it. If they do go full, Agenda 21 with this and do put us all on full lockdown, as it's getting really close. I mean, I think Canada is issuing the quarantine suggestion tomorrow. So things are going to start going in that direction in a hurry. And a lot of their solutions are going to, because society is going to start falling apart, a lot of new technology is going to have to come out of that just to kind of keep us all going. Because how they like to do that, give us the solution to the problem.
Oh, yeah, they're the savior, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when you've got a worldwide awakening going on. You've got protests going on in Hong Kong, Italy, France, countries all over the world where people are hitting the streets saying, you're not going to take this crap anymore. And they're trying to take their power back. Well, I think that really pushed them to say, hey, we're losing the narrative here. We're losing control of what's going on. And hence, gee, what have we got here? Oh, this horrible pandemic virus that's killed like 3,000 people. Only that, there was probably more than that killed in car wrecks last week, I'm sure. It's just mass insanity. But it's from their point of view, from the parasite class point of view, this has worked extremely well for them now because they've managed to take everybody off the streets. Nobody's protesting anymore. You got people locked up in their own homes. You got businesses shutting down. But I think that these greedy mofos that even these rich, corporate people, they're going to start losing money. And even though they've got plenty of money, they're so greedy they can't stand to lose money very long. So I think that will put an end to it, or at least slow it down at some point. I'm hoping.
It will, and also the what I'm talking about the technology dump on the other side of it, because they're going to know all that shit too. So they own the problem, they own the solution. And,
oh yeah, I'm sure they had it before they started this. Any thoughts on what that might be?
Sorry, I'm not understanding what you're asking me.
No, as far as technology that they might be rolling out.
Oh, I see. Well, medical stuff for sure. Vaccinations is a form of technology.
Yeah.
Things like accents to 5G technology. There's going to be a little bit of revelations within that, obviously, at some point in time, because they can't deny it forever. So they'll have to tell us something. Yeah, it'll be subtle, but it's still things that people are making money off of, and the brands that are still up and running will be the ones that work into the pocket of those people. Because even if you start shutting down a bunch of businesses, it's the mom and pop independently run stuff that goes first, right? It's not the Starbucks, right. And it's not the
Walmart,
the Fisher Price.
Yeah,
inside joke there.
Okay. Well, anyway, I see the two major dichotomies in analysis of the situation here. I've had a bunch of people send me info, the Q info, or that all this is being implemented so that the arrests of, the secret arrests of the cabal, the deep state, whatever you want to call them, are all taking place in the background, and that we're all going to come out the other end of this with a sound financial system and all the crooks in jail. And then on the other hand, of course, is what we've been talking about, the total clamp down on humanity. So it's crazy. I would love to think that there are really great people out there that are, in fact, taking down the deep state while all this is going on. But somehow I have a tough time buying that.
I'll say it sounds like an Illuminati rumor to me.
It sounds like hopium, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah.
It's like, okay, the crap's going down, but we got to kind of take the wind out of their sails by telling them, oh, this is all good, and wonderful things will happen on the other side. And don't misunderstand me, anybody out there. I sincerely hope that that's exactly what happens. I really, really do, because nobody wants to face and live in a world like we're talking about that these people are trying to implement. I mean, there's a 3-stage process that, and then supposedly we're in stage 1 that I saw some people post, which seems very plausible about the type of thing that they're trying to implement. And this is stage 1 of taking, the total control. Now let's talk about 5G, because I've also got some really interesting information about people saying that there is no actual virus at all, that this is actually 5G, 60 gigahertz radiation poisoning that these people are experiencing, which are very similar to flu-like symptoms. And it causes a massive detox in the body. And I find that really interesting. And
that definitely happens.
And yeah, and I think that's very plausible. And if you look at all the places that supposedly are hardest hit, all of these places have rolled out 5G. So it's interesting.
The technology itself does have that effect on us. It also gives them the opportunity to activate viruses that they've been giving us for a long time. That's why we can find coronavirus in old medical journals, is because it's been in
Around
old
forever,
vaccines for a long time.
Yeah.
And now they can do it with chicken pox, they can do it with measles, they can do it whatever they want. That's why, anytime people start making, strides in anti-vax communities, that's the community gets hit with the measles outbreak. It's that easy. Just make it happen here. Sorry.
Well, I think another thing that we face is that most people can't fathom that level of evil. You know what I'm saying? And these people are beyond what, to my estimation, they're beyond evil. They're just they're in a whole new caliber of evil. What they're doing, and of course they don't see it that way, do they? They kind of look at it like we're like little animals that they can just dink with, and bend to their will.
I think it's more like we're fields of carrots, and
even worse.
They can just pluck us whenever they want and destroy our environment whenever they want by tilling it up over and over and over again, and resetting it, and then planting us in it again.
Yeah, it's not a happy thing. So where do you think we go from here?
Well, that's a hard thing to answer. I mean, individually for all of us, we're just going to have to learn how to manage it. There's not going to be a lot of opportunity to even stand up against it at this point in time, except for maybe in personal ways. But, manage it and try and keep yourself healthy enough so that you can help others. I think that they're trying to instill this fear into us that we avoid each other. And usually if I hear them say that, I think that we need to kind of, be there for each other as a community during this.
Absolutely.
So, it gets really tough for people who have kids, because then you're responsible for life that isn't just yours, and you don't want to make decisions for them that could potentially hurt them. So there's a lot of variable in this. But, just try and keep your emotions as clear as possible. It's going to be really hard because you're going to get it from both ends. But clear vision, that's what 2020 is all about, right? So we need to try and maintain that as best we can.
I agree. And I think another thing we can all do is try and detox as much as possible. Because it's my understanding the more metal you have in your body, the more deeply you'll be affected by these frequencies that they're blasting at us. And I've seen some interesting presentations on that people who have had hip replacements or knee replacements or different metal structures put in their body, that they really are affected heavily by these EMF type waves and the radiation that's coming from these technologies. And not sure what you do about that, if you have that, but other than just try and stay away from these towers and things like that as much as possible. But detoxing the body always is helpful, no matter what. So I think that's something we all need to.
Detoxing your energy and building up your own energy is just as important too. I've talked before about how we are, through our chakra systems, constantly generating energy. And if you don't control where that energy goes, then other people can feed off of it. But it also just goes to waste, even if someone's not feeding off of it. So the best thing to do is learn how to control it and use it for various things around you. And a lot of our, human sensations or impulses, the things that, we can all identify with that make us human, are a lot of the avenues we have to, actually use that energy. It'll work through if you want to go exercise and build up your immune system that way. You can use it to put good intentions into your food as you are eating. Another important things that people can start considering is changing your habits so that you are consuming a lot less right now. And that will help us all as well, because they want us to overconsume, because they want to drive home the fact that we're gluttonous little piggies, right? And let's not live up to that for them.
Excellent advice. Yeah, I agree with that. And or I think one thing I'm sort of revisiting myself is doing more grounding and getting more sunlight as much as I can as well. I think that helps us stay connected to the energy we need to be connected to.
Absolutely. Getting out in the trees. They're not very happy with this either, but
I'm sure
they could use our support as well. So yeah, let's focus instead of getting so scared of the technology. Just remember that nature is still here, and we need to support each other and it. So instead of running away with our tail between our legs, let's stand our ground and remember that we're the stronger ones, and that's what they're trying so desperately to make us forget.
Exactly. And they wouldn't go to all these great lengths if they didn't have something to really fear themselves from us. And their greatest fear is that we do come together and that we do stand our ground and that we are the people. As much as they've tried to really program it out of us, we need to remember who we are. And we're not just some eagle running around in a meat suit. There's a lot more to us. So we've got to keep that in mind. We've only got a couple of minutes for the break, Shane. When we come back after the break, I want to get into some things that a lot of people are really, really interested in. And there are certain groups who are really taking advantage of some well-intentioned, loving people in a financial way by dangling financial carrots. And it's a tried and true kind of a scam operation that we've seen so many times. But I think we need to get into some of the details of that and after the break and talk about it, because it's bad enough that these, big muckety mucks are doing these things to us. But when people are masquerading in our world as truth bringers and as, people who have a positive spiritual intent, and at the same time, they're trying to, scam people and for their own benefit, that's just unacceptable on every level.
Absolutely. And obviously, I will answer any question ever asked to me. And I guess to finish up on this, because we are just about to go to a break, the mass arrest idea is insane. It's not going to happen. You're going to see some people thrown under the bus, absolutely. But there's way too many of them that you don't even know their names. And most of the ones that are actually to blame don't live on the surface of this planet anyways. So there's going to be no rest for mass arrests. Let's just focus on what's what we can actually see here.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. And although we would love to all, see them do the perp walks, because that would be justice, but we're going to have to create our own justice at some point here. So, and not in a violent way, but in a very non-violent way. And so with that, we're going to take a short pause. You're listening to Inside the Matrix with our special guest, Shane Bales. We'll be back in just a little bit. All right. Welcome back, everybody. I hope your day is going well, and in spite of all the craziness. But before the break, we were referring to, people out there in the sort of alt news or alt info community doing things that aren't exactly in our best interest. Now, going back historically, there's been all these supposed, financial things that are going to work out for we the people, like the Saint Germain Trust, you got Nasara, you got Jassara, you got the People's something or other with that, what was that gal's name? Tucci or Jarif, or I forget her name now, but there are all these different things where, people get really hopeful that they're going to get funding for projects, that all this money has been saved up over millennia for we the people to do wonderful things. And on the surface, it always sounds so great. And it's what we long for, to be able to do all these altruistic things to help each other. And nobody would love to see that happen more than I would. But, it always works out that these things are just fabrications, and there's usually a small group of people, sometimes just one or two, that are actually just running a scam with these kind of things. And it's very disappointing when you find these things out because, and like I said, we're all very hopeful. And the groups that tend to come up around these ideas, these concepts, they're generally this really good-hearted, wonderful people. And I'm just going to throw it out there. Right now, I'm mainly referring to the THI group. And I have to say that I have experienced nothing but really, really nice, warm, and happy people in that group in my interaction with them. But come to find out that a lot of what they've been told is absolutely not true. So, Shane, I know you have a lot of information because you know the two principal people that are involved and also another one that's not exactly principal. But can you share with us how that latest version of the Mana World Trust, or whatever you want to call that, came about, and how that was brought to your attention?
Well, I mean, I was contacted by Kim directly a long time ago, for a long time, and it's again the same way that I approached a lot of people. I give them rope, and I give them the benefit of the doubt, and I let them talk, and I listen to them, and some things make sense and some things don't, and some people are more clever than others, but eventually if someone's really not telling me the truth, I'll get to that. And usually when I do, I'm pretty honest with them that I just don't believe them, and that was the case there. That was 4 years ago now, I think that conversation had happened.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been friends with Thomas all along. I haven't really been paying attention to what's going on there because of the way that I feel about it. But, it's not the first time I've spoke up about it publicly either. I remember it was on Facebook right before, Randy had them on. And I said on Randy's, well, the only problem is that there is no Mana World Trust, and that got Thomas upset, and I apologized because it's just my opinion. I think it's nonsense. I'm quite sure that it's nonsense, and time has now kind of proven me right.
Yeah.
So that was it, and the way that all went down was pretty clear. I made a general call out for people who do stuff like that on your show, and they're not the only people who reacted to it. 2 other groups like it contacted me privately.
Really?
And asked if I was talking about them, and we had a discussion. I said I could have been, but actually no. Yeah,
but if the shoe fits.
But again, something to that effect. If the shoe fits, then go wear it, and have a nice day. There's this dream of yours with this fantasy money that's just going to fix everything. Is just that. It's a dream. And then one person just decided to react on my personal Facebook wall to a post that wasn't even really about that. I was talking about a friend who was trying to tell me that I shouldn't talk to another friend because that friend had hurt me in the past. And I'm just not like that. I don't close doors on people. So that's what I made a post about. And, that was taken even more personally. And Kim responded as Christy Adams on that and had her full little meltdown there, which was, right from if you go right to the beginning of it, she says what she says. I ask her directly, did I not say this to you privately? And she concedes that I did. So right there, the conversation pretty much should have been over, but meltdown ensued from there. And you're welcome to go read it. I got nothing to hide there. Just please don't add more comments. Like it's enough already. Go to Team Bubba if you want to go talk about it.
Yeah, that's a good place. And like us, the group that calls itself Team Bubba. Really good people, good-hearted people, good-intentioned people. They don't want anybody else to be scammed, by this group or any other group. So they've taken it upon themselves to expose it, and I'm glad that they did, and I appreciate their efforts. It's always sad to see this kind of thing because we're all of us who understand, at least to varying degrees, what's going on in the world. We know it's wrong. We want to help in any way we can. We want to change it. And when somebody comes along and offers us a possible solution, man, it's just so appealing. It's just like, oh, we want that. We want the ability to create positive change in the world. And in our world, it takes money to do a lot of these things other than, our own interaction with people and things we say and shows like this and others. We're all doing that. But to do something on a big scale, it takes money. So it's understandable that a lot of us would be drawn to a potential program that could really help us. But then you have to stop and think, all right, if somebody says they have, quadrillions of worth or dollars or what value, however you want to put it, in a trust or something like that, what good is it if it can't be accessed? And that's the thing. It's the never-ending dangling carrot that has been put out there for people saying, "Oh, it's coming, it's coming." It's just like the revalue of the dinar and all these other supposed currencies. The dong, that one cracks me up. Everybody's waiting for their dong, right? Some more than others, I guess. But it's just so hilarious to me that these systems are still out there, and there are, to this day, there are websites dedicated to the revaluation of the currencies, and all these people who bought these, currencies are going to be instant millionaires, and I remember looking at one of these sites probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it was always, every week it was like, okay, well, it was going to be Monday, but this happened, and these bad guys stepped in and they stopped this, but now it's going to be 3 weeks from Friday. And so 3 weeks from Friday comes, and it's like, oh no, we were so close. We were within 2 minutes of the money being released, and then this happened. And and they just keep the story going over and over, and people follow it and invest their life savings into this stuff, and it's heartbreaking. It's terrible that we're already being scammed by our own money system in general in every way possible. We're being used and abused by the parasite class, whether they're above ground or below ground. This has been going on forever. But then we've got the other ones that are lower level that are doing the same thing.
We're community-based creatures. We want groups. We want community. So, of course, we're going to gravitate towards that aspect of any of these things. We also look around at the people who are trying to keep us out of our communities, and those are the people with all the money. And so we think that money is the solution. And so take the promised dangling carrot of money and a community of good people, and you have the breeding ground for what can be a really nasty cult. And too often that does happen, and too often a scam does occur. That's not to say that all groups are bad and that, everyone should just give up hope. It's just to say that you have to be really careful. And, if something like that, it's just simple common sense. If you have quadrillions of dollars, why don't you give us all 5?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or just one. How about one?
Why are we giving you one?
Yeah, why are we giving you our money if you have quadrillions? Oh, well, it's coming next week, 6 months. Oh, next year.
And I mean, to be fair, I know that, the people I'm talking about would like to draw a disconnect between those two entities, but they're not, because it's the same hopium that's driving each donation on either side. So that's where you've done it wrong for people. And these are good people. Like, I haven't had anybody come to me and be an asshole to me about it at all. So that says a lot about the people in THI. Like, nobody's attacked me over it.
Me neither.
Nobody's putting up websites to talk shit about me about it either. So it's not like they're bad people. And any of the people who have contacted me about it have all been lovely. And I've heard their story. And it's fucking heartbreaking to hear that this is what these people are doing to people. Like, it's not right. And it's just, I know it seems silly because it's just this tiny little corner of the internet. But like have some respect for your brothers and sisters, and don't do this to them. Treat them with more respect than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, they'll try and say, well, the People's Club is totally different than this trust thing, and it's all related. It's all part of the same operation. So I'm sad to say that, because, like you said, I have not heard a bad word from anybody in THI, and I haven't heard anything since all of this went down from any of them. But still, they haven't flooded my Facebook page with nasty grams, which, I understand why, because these are good people, but they've been misled, and they need to know that they've been misled, like many of us have. We've all been misled. Let me tell you, there's not one of us out there who has not been misled at some point in time, because it's just part of living in this world. There's scam artists everywhere, and, our government is the perfect example of that. We see it everywhere. So that's nothing to be, that concerned about, but we have to learn as we go forward, and we have to recognize things for what they are, and, be kind and always friendly with people, but be very, very discerning and skeptical. If somebody claims to have quadrillions and zillions of dollars, well, let's see it. Let's see it in action. Let's see something good with it. If you want to just talk about it, it's nice. It's a really flowery, happy sounding thing to talk about, but don't go on and on for years about it and then not produce anything at all.
It's just a constantly evolving story. Every time one thing doesn't work out, it's this, it's that. This is TV show stuff. This isn't anything new.
It's just a different reality show. Only this one is more mostly on audio side, not a lot of video with this one.
And the other part of this is there's always redemption. I don't believe that even when people do shitty things and behave shitty, that makes them at their core shitty people. We all have a tendency to do bad things. It can happen. So, you can come back from things. You have to be
absolutely
honest, and you have to humble yourself. And, for those involved, that's kind of an olive branch suggestion. There are a lot of people out there who care about you and are disappointed. And if they're disappointed, it's because they believe you're better than this. And so do I. So, I hope you do. And I don't need to go through this whole fight again like I did with Corey Good, because I know where it ends. And, just keep my name out of your mouth, and don't say anything that might make me want to get angry with you. And, we can leave it at all of this.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I extend my olive branch to anybody out there who feels, offended by this or anything. I hope you don't, but I also hope you look at this in a very careful manner and, really think it through logically. And, all want to believe it's human nature. We want to know that there's something in the future to look forward to that's just incredibly wonderful, but it's not going to happen like this. So to anybody out there, if there are any THI people, or if Tommy or Kim are listening, or if they hear this archive, I would love and welcome you guys to, come clean and just say, hey, we did this thing. It was a mistake. We'd like to move forward, and I think we would all be willing to do that if they were strong enough to do something that way.
Yep, I definitely would. I mean, you'd have to come clean, because no one's buying the bullshit anymore, though. It's you can try and twist it all you want over there. It's kind of laughable, but the choice is yours.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of, when people get real religious and they'll say, this great thing happened to me, and it was because of, my God made that happen. And then when things go really bad, it's like, well, no, my God didn't do this. This was just, some really bad people. We put we tend to want to believe the best about things that we believe in. We tend to look at them as sort of a savior, and there are no saviors. You're your own savior, everybody. That's my opinion, of course, and you're welcome to disagree. But the savior that needs to be enacted is you. We all need to realize who we are, wake up to that fact, and start owning up to it. And it's too easy to just put off all this stuff on, entities or belief systems. We've got to, you should be your own belief system, period.
That is correct.
Form a religion of one, form your own.
Well, I was going to mention it earlier too, that it's not always just money. Sometimes the promise is the rapture, right? The ascension, ascension being the new age version of that, or
enlightenment.
Whatever.
It's enlightenment.
Exactly.
Yeah, you will become enlightened. Okay, once you become
the Galactic Federation of Light is going to take out all the bad guys and leave everybody good.
Yeah, I used to be part of the Love and Light crew, and I can go along with that hopium and wanting to see that happen. How cool would that be? I mean, how cool would this? All of us Star Trek fans. Can you imagine the Galactic Federation just coming in and cleaning the house? What a fantasy what a wonderful fantasy. But, we know that's not going to happen. It is a fantasy. You have to see it for what it is. But again, us humans, we're hopeful beings. We like to have nice things to look forward to, and we like to think that those things are possible. But we have to take responsibility, and if anything wonderful is going to happen, we have to do it, I think. Absolutely.
It's what everyone's saying, right? Like, do the work. Isn't that the catchphrase? Like, do the work. Do the work. That's not done on, radio shows talking about fantasies you have. It's not done sitting around in back channels talking nonsense about other people. Mm-hmm. It's done by going out into your community and helping people. It's done by treating everybody in a positive way so that they can, pay that forward. It's done by how you hold your energy in all the situations you get yourself into. It's done in all these subtle ways that are all just within yourself. It's what everyone's kind of ignoring while they're waiting for the money to come rolling in, or they're waiting for the ascension to start, or they're waiting for the ETs to show up and save them.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Then you got these gurus out there, and then oh yes, follow me and you will achieve enlightenment. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it's not just them. I mean, you've got who's that guy in Texas? I always forget his name because he makes me angry when I think about him. He's lives in a $40 million mansion, and he's got an actual stadium for a church. I mean, these people are so obviously scam artists. It's just unbelievable that people fall for this stuff. But it is what it is, and as a whole, as the mass of humanity, these are opportunities for us to really grow and wake up and see things for what they are, because we have been bamboozled for so long. And, it used to be a little more subtle, but now it's like in your face. It's all over. Back before the internet, there wasn't as much media capability of communication, obviously. And back in the days of radio, it was just radio and newspapers. That's all you had, and some books. And then it progressed to television, and that's when they realized they could really do the whammy on us. And that's what's been happening.
And now we have the internet where it can happen instantaneously.
Yeah. But there's always a balance though, because, they're putting their crap out and they're just doing everything because they're scared to death. They see people waking up everywhere and they know that if they don't put their stuff out full force now, that it's going to be over really quick for them. Because,
they're even trying to control the waking up process by coming up with like #woke.
Yeah.
And other things like that sound like awakening because they have that word in it. But,
right. That's perfect, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. They're woke. All right.
Maybe it's just a bunch of magicians admitting what they've been doing to you all along.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Yep. It's the puppeteers, but now we see the strings. The strings are appearing. And so we do have that capability, though, of sharing information that we never had before. So in the last 20 years, that's come about. And that's powerful. And we need to keep using that, as a tool for as long as we can. Obviously, they're trying to censor a lot of things, and they have censored, but we still are able to get a lot of information out there. And memes are awesome. Alexander Bruce has been on the show, I think 3 times. She comes up with the most amazing, funny memes. It just makes my day almost every day to see her memes, and other people do too. And those memes, there's so much conveyed in a simple meme that I think they're very effective. Anyway, we're up against the break, Shane. Time is flying by. We're going to take another short pause right here. We'll be back in just a few minutes. So please, everybody, stick around with us. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat or give us a call. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody, for our third segment of the show today. I think we said what we need to say about in the last segment about that. So just everybody use your own discernment and know that there's, no hard feelings. We just want people to make things right. That's it. Now on the break, we were talking about a lot of these businesses overreacting to the current situation in the world, grossly overreacting. Being here in Las Vegas, this town lives or dies by the tourist trade, and also the conference trade, trade shows, things like that. We have a massive convention center, and almost every casino hotel also has their own convention centers. It's a huge part of the commerce that goes on in Las Vegas, and a lot of these big conferences are canceling now. And I know myself, a lot of my band work has been canceled. A lot of things are really, truly being affected that really shouldn't be, other than the fact that there's mass hysteria going on that is totally irrational.
Yeah, it's tough to see because, it makes sense if there was validity to everything, right? Like if we were dealing with something that was some type of freak contagion that we didn't have all of this evidence was man-made and,
or man-caused.
Yeah, well, man-made, like it's got a protein in it that couldn't have got there otherwise. If it wasn't for all of that, then it would be scary. It would be scary.
Yeah, it would be.
Our civilization is just not equipped to deal with this. So
but even if you use their numbers, of the numbers of people that have actually died from this thing, whatever it is, it's not a big deal, but they're making it into this big deal. And of course, people believe them. And then, you got Trump out there just declaring a state of emergency. That did not help either. And I think a lot of people really went, oh, shit, when that happened. And, it just gave a lot more momentum to the hysteria.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game right now.
Yep.
It's just making us as scared as possible so that we'll obey what they say and take whatever they give us to make it better.
Now, I saw an interesting video last night. There's this doctor in San Francisco who's studied a lot of the older writings of holistic health and things like that, and things written by people like Rudolf Steiner, I think, or Randolph Steiner or Rudolf Steiner, I'm not sure which. But he's claiming that all of this, that there is no actual virus, that all of this is a result of 5G and the radiation poisoning that people are, being hit with as a result of 5G being implemented in all these areas. Now, we know that last year, around October, I believe it was, there were forced vaccinations in China, in Wuhan. This was not something that was voluntary. It was forced upon everyone. And then within a few weeks, they rolled out full 5G. And shortly after that, people started becoming very, very ill. So there's something to be said for that. And we don't know the full picture yet, exactly what it a lot of sense, because all the places that they've supposedly are the hardest hit by this thing, whatever it is, have all rolled out 5G. So Iran, Italy, all these different places. And it seems to me that if you look at the science of a 60 gigahertz frequency of what it can do to living biology, this is part of the depopulation program.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's that's why they put that technology into place, was so that they could depopulate subtly whenever they felt like it, if that was the route that they needed to or wanted to go. There's going to be side effects, like the 5G is going to lower immune systems, which is going to, like, it is still cold flu and allergy season, people. Like, people are still getting sick in the normal old way that they always got sick, and they have a weaker immune system right now because of 5G. So there's probably a little bit of an overlap between, what's actually going on with, people feeling sick or getting sick and the coronavirus itself. But this is something man-made, which means that, it is within their power to spin this into something that does depopulate us all. I just don't think that's what's going to happen, and I hope that I'm right on that.
I hope you are too.
I just don't. I don't feel like that's what this is about. I feel like this is all about new rules and new technology and new
controls.
New controls on civilization. And it also gives us, like, because it's a global pandemic, it also gets us one step closer to the global, everything. So there's just too much. There's too much propaganda. If it were like very clear cut, everything was saying this is going to fucking kill us, I might actually believe that was the case. Well,
I think it's the slow kill, because we're seeing it all over the place. Okay, we've talked about it many times in the show before. It's a multi-pronged system. You've got the chemtrails in the air with the nano smart dust and all this, the nano aluminum, barium, strontium, all these other little nasties in the air. We've got fluoride in the water. We've got glyphosate, poisoning our food supply. When you put it all together, each one's bad enough by itself. But if you put them all together, it seems pretty obvious that at the very least, they want a very weak and sick population as much as possible.
Well, they make a killing off of us being sick.
Yeah, and that too. It plays right into that whole, pharmaceutical industry that, oh, yeah, well, you're feeling ill. We got a pill for you. And, all the script writer doctors, they love it. They're writing more pills than they ever have, and they're getting more kickbacks than they ever have. And they're just trying to maintain dis-ease among people. But I don't think anybody can say that any of this is an accident. This is things that have been planned for a long time. So whether it's just to keep us dull and slightly ill all the time, or eventually really seriously depopulate, who knows? It's definitely up for discussion.
Yeah, we'll just have to watch as it plays out. I don't see it slowing down very quickly. I think it's going to play out for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it's going to play out all the way to September, like some people are thinking that it will. But yeah, it's a weird thing because you talk to anybody, I've still not heard any anecdotal cases of this. Like I haven't met people who have it or have relatives that have it and all of that. So it's like, if it was something that was spreading as quickly as they thought, then I feel like you would just see it. It would be a lot more evident.
Yeah.
I feel fine. And that was the other thing. Like there's a theory that goes around out there about it's actually a good thing that the coronavirus has actually been triggered by some coronal mass injection, and
yeah, I've heard that,
it's meant to take out this psychopathy DNA, the reptilian bloodlines, the Illuminati bloodlines, and all of that kind of stuff. If I were dropping dead, I might believe that. But
wouldn't that be great, though?
I share their blood, and I'm still here. Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be great for you, or we would definitely not want anything to happen to you. But if we could get rid of psychopathy.
Sorry, another topic of that is like that. Just the grouping all of those people together is kind of the wrong thing,
Right.
Just because someone is part of one of those families doesn't mean that they're involved with what their family is, the family business, so to speak, is.
Exactly.
People get out of those families. People make their own choices. It's not you're born into it, and therefore no. Like they might try and condition you into being in that, but many people listening to this have been through that same type of conditioning and didn't end up being that without having their bloodline. So,
and my hat's off to all of you like that have overcome that system, because it's terrible. But you're right that we're really battling psychopathy, which is a certain mindset which has no compassion whatsoever for anybody or anything. And that's really what we're up against. And again, it's the hopium thing that we wanting to see that can be done away with. But again, it's not going to happen that way. It's only going to happen for us if we, the people, come together and one of the greatest tools we have is non-cooperation. If we can do that en masse, if we can do that all together, then it's game over. But that's a big, big, tall order. Absolutely.
And we've got to be careful not to give it away to them too quickly. It's a test for them, but it's a test for them to see what we do. And every person not listening to the fear is one kind of kicking the nuts for them. So
yeah, and we love to see that. We absolutely do. And when you were more in touch with some of these people, did how much of the future plans did they reveal to you? Or is it more like they have some general plans, but they sort of would implement the details as they went along? How did that work?
Well, they have multiple plans. They would have like many different scenarios that they could use. When the false flag alien invasion thing was kind of going around, I talked about that a bit because that was one of their potential plans to create mass hysteria and usher in one world government.
Which is also Project Bluebeam thing?
Yeah, and that's the end goal of this is, again, to have global control, one world government, right? So anything that kind of brings us together like that is good for them. And this is just, one option. Like it's an option I've heard about for sure. Like I joke about it, but like, I've the zombie option I've heard for sure. There have been many options, and they can test various things to see how far they can push it and turn it on and off and start it up again later if that's what they want to do too. So, yeah, I guess they don't have one plan. They watch what we do and they adjust, and whatever seems to be the best at the time is what they go for.
And the decisions are I'm assuming, made by AI.
Sort of. The plan that they're generally following is, it's obviously humans kind of, putting it into practice.
Mm-hmm.
Which means they have to agree with it at some level.
Yeah. So we've talked about before that, there were a group of sort of interface people who directly interfaced with the reptilians and the humans called the parents. And you said that they're basically out of it at this point. They're no longer here. So is that accurate, or?
Well, yeah, there's one definitely still kind of overseeing things, but they don't. The power has been given to the people. All the, they were agents of the Draco. Now that the Draco aren't running things, and the people that the Draco had promoted along the way are, the parents weren't needed. So it's going to be, I guess, AI could essentially be the replacement for that, but a lot of responsibility still falls on some very misguided humans.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, humans can be programmed into psychopathy fairly easily, and we see that. And but I always wonder how many actual humans are here, as opposed to, I guess you could call them NPCs, the fillers, the non-human fillers. I don't know what they are, but it just seems like we have a large group of people who really aren't quite human. They're not quite, I don't know what they are. They just kind of go along to get along. A lot of people used to refer to them as NPCs, like in a game, non-player characters.
Psychopathy. It's a lot of what it is. Like, it's not just the people running the world that are victims of what is now psychopathy on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of just regular people running around out there without empathy. And then also just like, the sickness of the society that was created, and, the hundreds and thousands of years that we've been living in it is playing out too. Like, we're psycho-spiritually sick, and everything's perverted around us. So we have a big learning curve of how to, dig ourselves back out of all of that programming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy. It's not something that happens overnight. And it's very humbling for those of us who have to do it, because you have to admit that you were wrong. People don't like to admit that they were wrong, even if they were misguided. There's still choice on your end involved, so therefore you were still wrong, and you need to make amends within yourself and within the world. So, I don't like to say that there's no stopping what's coming, because I do think that there is a possibility. I just don't see it happening. I think that we're on like a time loop of what has already happened, and we're just going to have to watch it play out. But it's really, really important how we hold ourselves when we go through shit. That's why I always say it's not what happens to the being, it's what they do once it happens to them, because the way you hold your energy against demons, against dark, against all of these problems, is your way of responding to them. And, having people like, so scared, and the fact that they're so scared of it, that can be used as an insult to like call somebody this or that, or like everyone's possessed, everyone's got a demon in them. Why are we so scared of demons? Like, we're stronger than they are. So why don't we stand up to them? Why don't we promote the fear of being so scared of these things when we're stronger than them? It's the same thing that's going on with society. Why are we promoting this fear of them having all this, stuff over us, when ultimately the whole reason they're trying to control us is because we're powerful. So, focus on that, control that energy, harness that energy, and find a way to outlet it that, might bring people peace and solace and joy and love and all those other things, instead of hoarding and trying to use it against one another. I don't even know where I'm going with any of this, to be honest.
No, but that's beautiful what you just said. And it's so, so true. We have to, stand strong. The weakness of humans is that we can be programmed, to me. That's what I've seen and what I've observed throughout my lifetime. And I've seen it happen in myself. We're all fallible in that way. But once you see the programming that goes on in the world, once you see what's happened in your own life, and like you said, it's tough to admit when you're wrong, but we've all got to do it. And we've all been there. We've all been duped one way or another. But that's okay. It's part of the learning process. It's not something to mourn over. We have to realize things for what they are and move on, and do the very best that we know how. And if all humans had that mindset, it would be a different world in a very short order. I don't know if and when the 100th monkey thing kicks in, where enough of us figure out, what's being done to us and, kind of see things for what they are, whether that'll instantly transpose itself into the rest of the population. Hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it would do a lot of people in the alternative community some good to look outside of the alternative community for some inspiration, because there are a lot of people in the mainstream world, all the people that you think are NPCs and sleepers and all those derogatory terms are starting to wake up. And if you were to poke your head out there and take a look, you might stop insulting them long enough to find some new brothers and sisters. Just saying. So there is change happening. There is change happening, whether we see it or not. And the programming is just that. It's programming, and we can deprogram it. It just takes a lot of eating humble pie and realizing that we have been weak, and we have been duped, and we have been lied to, all of that, but we're not victims. That's the biggest thing. We're not victims. You don't need to feel so powerless.
Yep. I concur with that. So anyway, if anybody's got questions, I know this is heavy stuff, and I'm sure people out there going, oh man, these are not easy things to talk about, because they're very personal, and they're, it's just right down to the core of who we are. But if people have questions, they want to ask, Shane a question or two here, feel free to pop it in the chat, and we'll be happy to talk about it. There's a lot going on. This is a really heavy duty time in our world, and we've got to look for ways to come together. That's I think one of the main messages we're trying to say here. The dark side is doing everything in their power and their magic and their ability, to drive wedges between us. And that goes through to different Facebook groups too, and what we were talking about before. We need to realize that the vast majority of people out there who are seeking the truth, have the same common interests. So I'm hoping that we can all come together in that respect.
Yeah, see, there was a kind of a model for the alternative community that existed for a long time with, the whistleblower circuit and the contactee circuit and all of these things. And then, these other types of scams and cults and stuff that we've been talking about kind of crept in on all of that. And then there's the, outside manipulation by places like the CIA and what they do with military toys to people in these communities. So the more fighting amongst ourselves we do, the more being, That's why I keep going back to this, calling each other demons and being so worried about these things. It's because it's really like dehumanizing. Like you're anyone who's saying that type of stuff about other people, like you're not even being what you're trying to say, that you are so superior over them, which is human. You know. Like,
All right, Shane, sorry to cut you off, brother, but we got to take a short pause right here. Once again, we'll be back with the last segment in just a little bit. Stick around with us.
You're listening to Inside the Matrix.
All right, bringing in the sunshine today. Yeah, well, we're definitely shining the light on some not so fun things, but you know what I like to refer to when, you know, a lot of this stuff gets heavy after a while, so we have to find a way to sort of decompress from all that. And I think one of the greatest things that humans do are the arts. So whatever you're into, whether it's music or performing arts, dance, visual arts, I mean, there's so many different kinds of things. Healing arts, I mean, these are all arts, and the arts are what humans are really, really great at and really creative. These are the kind of things that we can involve ourselves with, where it becomes productive and helpful for others as well as ourselves. And of course, for me, music has always been the thing. And music is a wonderful way of not only expressing yourself, but just enjoying yourself by getting into it. You know, whatever kind of music you like, you know, put it on, listen to it, and I find that it helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Any type of creative outlet, creating art is a way of, you know, manifesting that energy we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of lost alchemical arts in things like sound, and even the way that our eyes are manipulated by visuals and things like that when they're created with pure intentions. A lot of people in the community, like, they kind of know about, you know, the stories behind the record labels and stuff like that, and it's kind of taken their taste away from some music and stuff like that. But I mean, you know, the most important thing is, and that's why I keep saying, don't be afraid, is like, you need to have some fun here as well. You know, it's very important for your energy, and, you know, we're talking about like your immune system, your physical body. It's very important for your spiritual body to be healthy, and laughter is a good way to do that. So finding ways to have fun is really important. You know, dancing, being foolish, you know, these things are, you know, silly. What do I mean? You know, like these things are good for you. And if you're spending all day, you know, worried about Corona and worried about internet scams and worried about ET invasions and what Draco are doing, you might be too busy to have some fun, and you're kind of giving up on the experience that you're supposed to be having while you're here. So, you know, creative arts can be a way for you to heal a lot of those things. You know, like if you have been through these programs and projects and cults, and you have these parts in your psyche that you have a hard time healing, and you're looking for a healthy expression for them, arts are the best way. You can play them out in fiction. You can play them out in a song. You can play them out in a painting. Lots of different options for you to, you know, make them, dig them out of your subconscious and bring them to light and put them to rest.
Absolutely. And nowadays we see how a lot of people are being very creative with new technologies and creating art, you know, and creating animations or all kinds of incredibly wonderful visual things that I've noticed. And it never ceases to amaze me how creative people are. It's just mind-boggling. I watched a video of a kid last night. I call him a kid because he was probably about 20, I'm guessing 20, 21 years old. And it was a video, it was called One Man Band or something like that. And this guy had a series of loopers, you know, for those people who know what loopers are, where you play a little passage, a musical passage, and then you start stacking other parts on top of it. You start with a drum beat, maybe put a bass part and a keyboard part on top of that. And he just went from about 7 or 8 different rooms where he started a brand new loop, a brand new feel, a brand new thing, musical thing, and each one went from one to the next seamlessly. It was just ingenious the way he did it. I loved it. And it's so inspiring to see people that are creative and what they come up with. And there's so much of that. And we get to enjoy that too, with our internet communication. Of course, we're able to share all this nasty stuff that we've been talking about, but we're also able to share that. And I know I need to spend more time on that kind of stuff because it is really inspiring and fun to see what other humans are up to. And I love the idea when people write a song and then they have people from around the world do different parts and add to it. And then it becomes this, international thing where you've got like 20 or 30 people and all in different countries, playing the same song, performing the same song. That's so cool.
Oh yeah, and like all this stuff you're talking about is exactly, it's what we're fighting for. Look how fucking beautiful we can be.
Mm-hmm.
We can be that fucking beautiful underneath all of this control we're talking about, right? So let's give ourselves some credit here. That should be the inspiration. Like that's why art can be so inspirational, is because this is being created out of pain. It's coming from a place that is choosing love over fear. It's exactly the inspiration we all need. I heard a quote recently that was pretty good though about inspiration. It's like bathing; you kind of have to do it every day. You have to keep inspiring yourself. You have to keep looking for things that bring you joy. And ritual becomes kind of a dirty word, but creating your own daily rituals of things that you do in order to remember to hit all these checkpoints of ways to be grateful and ways to find joy and ways to look at beauty, it can be very useful.
Absolutely. There's something I want to share with people along those lines, and there's a guy named Eric Whitaker, and he's not the only one, but his are really amazing. He's created these videos that are called virtual choirs. So he wrote some choral music, that's just all singing, and he asked people to pick a part. If you're a soprano, an alto, a tenor, baritone, bass, vocalist, whatever, man or woman, whatever you are, you pick the part that you can sing in your range, and you record it, and you use I forget how they used to sync it up, but I don't know if they used a metronome or you had to sing along with the backing track or something like that. But anyway, they ended up getting like hundreds and hundreds of people from around the world to record different parts, and these are pretty good singers. These are people that are in choirs, that are maybe professional singers or whatever, and they all just recorded different parts based upon what was in their range to sing. And this guy put them together, and I don't know how. They must have had a massive computer that was able to take all those video clips and put them together, but they did it. And there's several of those on YouTube. So if you look up virtual choir and then Eric Whitaker, Whitacre, you'll find some amazing stuff. And it shows their faces, the faces of all the different people recording, and it bounces around to, you see people from that you can recognize, their look from different parts of the world. And it's just wonderful to see. So that's just one thing that you can check out that you'll really be happy that you did. So I just want to throw that out there.
I will check it out.
Yeah. And speaking of music, there's a lot of things that inspire me, but there's 3 guys in, let me find these guys, in Sweden. They call themselves Dirty Loops, which is a funny name. But there's one guy's a bass player, one guy's a drummer, and one guy's a keyboard player that sings. And they got famous on YouTube by taking pop tunes like Justin Bieber and Britney Spears and people like that, by taking these pop tunes and making them into these jazz fusion songs that were just phenomenal. So here's another one. If you like that kind of music, jazz fusion, really high energy stuff, you'll be blown away if you check out a group called Dirty Loops. These three guys from Sweden, just absolutely mind-blowing. So I just want to throw that out there too if we're talking about music.
Yeah, music has been a weird thing for me. I've been not listening to a lot of it. I played a show last week, so I had to kind of force myself into practicing and listening to music again. But I don't know what it is within me right now. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, so I think that's probably why. It's like my brain, whenever I do have that time to listen to something, just wants information.
Well, I grew up listening to classical music, and I have always loved classical music, and I still do to this day. And I think there's something really amazing about classical music. It was a time period where, just masterpieces were written that you don't really see that much of anymore. And I'm not sure why that is. Why we had that sort of classical Renaissance period, and even before the Baroque period and all that, where just amazing music was created with very, not technology or anything like that. And then you got a guy like Beethoven, who literally went deaf and wrote some of his greatest pieces when he couldn't hear any of it physically, but he could hear it in his head. That's pretty mind-boggling. So I think classical music is extremely inspirational, and I was glad here in Vegas to see when they started up the Las Vegas Philharmonic. I know when it first started out many, many years ago, it was not a great orchestra, but I went to see them a few weeks ago at a place called the Smith Center here in Vegas. A beautiful, beautiful venue. And it was great. It was these guys have come such a long way. And that's another thing that people can go to, be a patron of the arts. Whatever style music you like, whether it's rock stuff or soul stuff or, whatever it is, country, classical, whatever it is that you like, be a patron of it. If you're not an actual musician or a singer involved with it, go support it. Support your local artisans.
Definitely if you got friends in the arts, like you have no idea how much it would mean to them and how you can change things for the better for them by just getting out there and, spending that hour listening to them play or whatever. It's, it's the same thing as like supporting local farmers and all of these things, the way we can vote with our dollar, right? Mm-hmm. And pay energy back to the people that we would like to see have more energy.
Yeah, and there is such I know you've experienced this too because you perform live as well. There's a great energy exchange that takes place between the performers and the audience. It's just, and many times it's magical what happens, and in a very good way.
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful, really, and it's another example of how community can work because you get a bunch of people in the same arena to watch a band that they all really enjoy. There becomes that camaraderie that you have for sharing that love. So it's that's why the dark side has always taken advantage of those gatherings, is because there's a lot of good solid energy made there. So again, if you're being aware of your energy, then you don't need to be afraid to generate it. You just need to learn how to harness it for yourself and control it for yourself and give it to the people you choose to give it to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, too much of our energy has been extracted in various ways, right?
Oh yeah, like all these things that I'm mentioning, like I really enjoy the UFC, but I'm also very aware of how the UFC was designed as a leash system. Yeah, we're almost done.
Well, I think sports are very interesting. I've been somebody that's participated in sports my whole life, and I enjoy it. What I enjoy about it is when it's, I don't know, this is kind of corny, maybe and old fashioned, but when it's really the, you compete on the sports field, but at the end of the game, everybody's friends and you shake hands and it's all good. we see a lot of the craziness that's not like that. That it tends to, make it something that's very weird. And if people got as excited about their freedom as they do about their favorite sports team, we'd be a lot further along.
For sure.
Okay, we have a question from the chat. How about that? Sarah. I wonder if that's my friend Sarah. Anyway, do you think this virus was to stop Trump getting reelected in November because the Dems didn't have a valid candidate to beat him?
No, if anything, this is going to help him stay. He had asked for a bailout before this even went down, I believe. And he wants to use that money to filter into his campaign to get reelected. No, I would think that I would actually go the opposite direction. That this all, first of all, it's going to be especially if it continues to go on for a long time, we're not going to be paying any attention to. There probably won't be an election, So I can't see it working in that direction. I can only see it helping Trump.
Yeah, interesting. And so what are your thoughts on somebody like Trump? A lot of people have attributed really massively great things for him. How do you view it?
I definitely don't have the negative view that everyone else does. I mean, they're all controlled puppets from my point of view either way, but if I'm going to look at things like the mainstream point of view would, then, it's could be a lot worse. He's clearly an asshole. He's clearly dumb in a lot of ways. He clearly is, not a great person, but he's done decent things and he's done some not good things, just like every other president. Right. A lot of what we gave him shit for early wasn't even him. It was left over from Obama, but everybody wants to ignore that because everybody loved Obama.
Except for when you ask people, well, what Obama's obviously even more of a puppet in my mind. He was a groomed CIA puppet or whatever alphabet agency brought him along. But when you ask people, well, what was the greatness that came out of those 8 years? What could you say? I mean, really nothing. And I don't know if there's going to be any greatness come out of now. We just have to see how it plays out. I mean, I'm very hopeful that something great will come about.
I would like that very much. It's about time to see something better, but is it in the script?
Yeah, is it in the script? And the question always comes up too, how much of it is literally completely scripted? How much of it goes off script and gets diverted and changed? I always wonder about things like that too. It is we know it's a play that goes on. Politics is a game that's being played. And I think for the most part, it is scripted, but it does affect us, what they talk about, what they do. And we're seeing it right now, big time. What they're promoting and what they're doing, it has an effect on us. So we can't just ignore it as just the latest reality show, which is kind of what it is, but it does affect us.
It's true. I think it's just that we place the blame on the wrong people. It's not Donald Trump's fault. He's just a puppet. He's just playing out an agenda from people behind the scenes whose name you're never going to hear.
Mm-hmm. So. Now, do you think that when somebody comes into office, whether it's a congressman or woman, senator or whatever, a person in what we would call a high position of political power, do you think they get the little visit or they sit down with them and say, okay, or do you think they're fully briefed on everything before they even get there?
I don't think they know everything. I think they find out things on a need to know basis. There's a bunch of stuff that they would have to kind of get let in on when they first get into office. And I mean, we've seen the effects of what that does to people. Obama aged 30 years and 2. So, obviously whatever they drop on them is not good, but it's definitely not everything.
Yeah.
And they don't really understand how much of a puppet they are either. And again, if we want to give Donald Trump a little bit of credit, we can talk about at least he calls them out on that.
Yeah, no, that's new, right? We've never
Yeah.
seen that before. We've never seen a politician call out another politician for extreme corruption before. So that's a happy thing. Yeah. I love seeing that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's entertaining.
It is, and never before has all of it just constantly been revealed to us. Like we're talking about fire hose speed here, that it's coming out at us every day. There's some kind of new corruption, some kind of new bust of pedophile group somewhere. All this stuff was so hidden before, but not anymore. I mean, it's just all just flying out in our faces. We got the Vatican corruption and pedophiles, and all that stuff was really hidden from us for so many years. But we're seeing it all. So this gives us the opportunity to look at it and decide, how we're going to be in this world.
Yeah, we've been talking about all these things happening for a long time and various possibilities, right? Like this whole martial law thing is nothing new to us. We were supposed to be prepared. So I guess we're about to find out if we were.
Yeah, and I think a part of all of us just knows that and goes, gee, I really don't want to believe that could happen. But like you said, we're starting to see that yeah, it certainly could and is.
Proof is always in the result. So we can believe all we want. We can talk about it till we're blue in the face, but we'll find out the truth once it is all over, as we always do.
Yeah.
And at that point, hindsight's 20/22.
Right. So. And I just want to keep things in perspective. And like I said, I think anybody that can be involved in the arts, this is a good time to really explore those things. We're going to have to weather this storm, whether it lasts just a couple more weeks or they drag it out for months and months. We're not sure yet. But I don't think it's going to be too long. And like I said before, I think once the big boys start seeing their money drop down, they're not going to let it go on forever. That's just my opinion.
Yep. For sure.
I don't think this is going to be a real long-term thing, but we just have to be very careful about what they try and slip in on us in the meantime. They're already talking about, passing these new bills and, drastic measures of controlling things. So it appears that was the plan all along. So we'll see what happens, but we got a lot of good people out there, a lot of people waking up, and we're all going to be putting our positive vibes out there and our intentions of great things happening in the world. And, we can have a very positive effect on the outcome, because it is our collective consciousness that drives the events. And so that's where we need to focus.
Exactly. We're the creators here. Worry creates as well. So
yeah.
Control yourself.
Control your energy, young grasshopper.
You'll need to find balance.
Yes. Wax on, wax off. All that good advice, yeah. Well, Shane, we're coming to the end of another great show. Thank you so much for sharing with us once again, and we're going to be having you on regularly, I'm sure, because people love hearing from you. And this has been Inside the Matrix, another edition. I wish people the best. Do the best you can out there. Love your fellow man and woman, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.
This is Inside the Matrix, hosted by Jimmy Brent.
Who are we talking about?
Jimmy Brent. Live every Sunday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
It is worldwide.
Broadcasting from an undisclosed location deep within the neon capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. For more information on the host and the show, please visit InsideTheMatrix.org. That's InsideTheMatrix.org. It's time to break the chains of manipulated consciousness and claim our true nature as creative, divine beings. Inside the Matrix. Inside the Matrix.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.